What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Hawks from Room podcast, hosted by yours truly, David Lee, aka D Lee for three. This last iteration of this podcast was after Game 3, and it was a completely different vibe in Atlanta and among the Hawks fan base. Shax did not have a great time talking with us, and now it's the pendulums of the playoffs shifts very dramatically, very quickly, and now it's the Hawks who have lost 2 in a row in pretty dominant fashion by the Knicks. From my perspective, Shax, we talked about this in the preview. The biggest advantages were always in New York's favor, and to me, they've now completely taken off Atlanta's biggest advantage, which is the transition game, and that's how you get to back-to-back blowout losses for Atlanta, where relatively non-competitive, by the midway through the fourth quarter, if not a little bit earlier. There was a lot of ire, well-deserved, for Mike Brown beginning of the series. Based off what you've seen for these last 2 games, like how is your confidence level in him improved? Not just in this series, but presumably beyond. Because if the Knicks keep playing this way, then I do think they'll likely be moving on to the next round.
I'd let's go from like 0 to like 100. I'd say like 75% maybe. I think the ability to like adjust in playoffs is huge. So he's able to do that, even though like I don't want to say the adjustments were like obvious, but it's what got him there for like most of the season. So and he went away from it, and he was able to come back to it, thankfully. Yeah, but the one thing there's a few things I'm still like skeptical about with him. It's just like, do we see this again? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, do we see him trying to make something out of something he's never done before? Like, he's done a few things this series that he hasn't done for the season, like throwing out these different lineups. There's like a couple lineups where they haven't seen the floor all year, so can't do that. And then just omitting double big completely was bizarre until like last night.
Yeah, and even with what they played last night, double big is only seen the floor for 5% of New
Hmm.
York's minutes. And that, if you would have told me that, then I probably would have expected that this would have been a lot closer series than maybe like what people expected. The other thing I want to ask you, Shax, I got a question last night, and I want to get your perspective on it before I give my take. L2 Hopeful asked me on Twitter, honest question, do you think this is more about the Knicks stopping the Hawks from doing what they want to do, or is this Atlanta playing poorly? I know this is always some combination of both, but which way does the scale tilt, in your opinion?
I don't think there's like a single answer for like one team. It's like what he says, like combination of both. Um, I think that Atlanta's shooting and half court offense is just it's like brutal a little bit because some of the lineups they're throwing out there other than the starting lineup, and I think I said this, like if the Knicks were like able to survive the starting lineup, I think they're okay because then you get into like I don't know, Quin Snyder is trying his best, I think, in my opinion, because of what he has. But there ends up being like multiple shooters that are like not comfortable out there. You can tell that they're not comfortable shooters like Kuminga, Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, and then when Dyson Daniels plays with like a traditional big and Bradley, like the spacing becomes like pretty nasty for them.
Yeah, so in the playoffs so far, and honestly, a lot of this is too because of the most recent blowouts, like the starters have been outscored by 24 in the 77 minutes that they've played. I had a lot of concerns coming into after like following the Kuminga trade about how exactly you play him with Jalen and Dyson.
Hmm.
And those minutes haven't been exactly fruitful either. Now they're a +3, but certain combinations have certainly been worse. Like a lot of the combinations that have been better have featured guys like Gabe Vincent. They featured guys like CJ McCollum, and that's why I think like that's why Gabe Vincent is playing is because he's at least a semblance of a threat to shoot off the dribble and pick and roll. But like units with Nikhil, if basically with Kuminga in for CJ McCollum have been a complete wash. Like you can't really run that at all. Or like you mentioned, we saw not a lot, but like a decent amount to where it's notable where You saw Dyson on the floor with Tony Bradley, which wasn't great. They played 6 minutes so far in this series, and you kind of duplicate a lot of the issues with that lineup if you also put Kuminga on the floor, and that's where the majority of those minutes have came was with Dyson, Tony, and Kuminga. Um, and I think like a lot of Hawks are asking like for Mokier, and I think that makes sense like from a scheme perspective, just for someone who's willing to take those threes, but that hasn't it hasn't been like no one's really shooting the ball well, and so
Mm-hmm.
if and New York has shown, and here's the thing, like New York has shown Mohamed Gay no respect behind the three-point line, and they shouldn't. And they've allowed him to shoot as many times as he wants from there. It's been a consistent theme throughout the series. From my perspective overall, the Hawks definitely are they're not making it easy for themselves. Some of the decision making and transition in particular, and I'll show a couple of those clips. But Atlanta's 8-26 this season when they have a below 40th percentile transition scoring performance, which is basically points added per 100 possessions. So how many points did you score relative to what you should have based off the fast break opportunities? And there were a lot of denied opportunities. Mikal Bridges had a deflection. Jalen Johnson tried to, I think, hit Nikhil in the corner. They ends up becoming a sideline out of bounds. New York has to set their defense. As you pointed out on your Twitter, New York has been a really strong defense since the 20th on January. And when New York is making shots, Atlanta isn't. New York sets their defense, and their size and physicality becomes that much more of an issue from Atlanta, especially if they can't get out and run. And I think, for me, I think Mike Brown's biggest adjustment has just been getting Brunson off the ball and not making him have to work to get up the floor against Dyson, not exposing him for turnovers. And because those turnovers have dried up for Atlanta, that's where their offense has also dried up. And
Mm-hmm.
like their 2 wins came when they won the transition battle.
Yep.
Didn't win it last night. Didn't win it in game 4. And this half court offense just isn't robust enough to get to compete against the team with this type of physicality. And I also think a continuity advantage as well. Like, as much as the large sample with Josh Hart like hasn't been good, I do think there's some value in these guys having played together so many
Mm-hmm.
possessions together. And
Yeah.
I think the connectivity on defense has really impressed me these last 2 games. And then now I'm curious on your thought as well. Like, Josh Hart didn't have the best shooting performance coming into Game 5. Feels like a lot of fans feel like they should be treating him more like Dyson. Um, have you been surprised with the amount of sort of like leverage Quin Snyder has used against Josh Hart? Do you think they should be playing off him a little bit more? I think that I've seen it enough. I don't think like it's a massive key to the series, but they've definitely tried it and mixed it in. It's not like they haven't tried.
Mm-hmm. Um, they should have, yeah, they should have played off him a little bit more, in my opinion. I think what they went with last night, they did like a Kongwu on OG.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. It's pretty much for Atlanta. It's matchup based, right? Because if you go through it, like who is CJ guarding? Like, is he guarding Hart or McCall right now?
Right. I think
Because
they had him on McHale at some points, but right.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I don't think they're comfortable with like Nikhil or CJ on OG at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I think they would have went Okongwu on Josh. But
Yeah.
then, even if they didn't, right? They're still pretty much respecting him as a shooter, which I still think is a mistake from them. There's like multiple possessions where they're even like going over on his ball screens, which is
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, you can't do that. Like only the bad teams have done that this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and then from like a transition defensive perspective, I feel like that if you're going to talk about a defensive issue, that's like the easiest thing to clean up. Hey, let's not turn the ball over. Let's get back. What have you seen that's kind of like let New York been so much better in that, just relative to the full season? Like over the full season, they were one of the worst.
Hmm.
They've held Atlanta to 2 of their 15 worst transition performances this season. And I think a lot of that starts with the offense, but I also think defensively they've just been just way
Yeah,
better there.
yeah, totally agree. I think it's just a matter of urgency. I think there's been a lot of conversations around this team just not being urgent enough, not playing to that level. You know what I mean? Like they take possessions. I don't want to say they take possessions off. They take they probably take I don't know. I want to say like they take games off, but yeah, it's like an up and down the urgency level with this team this year. And I think like when you get them, I think it does matter that Atlanta won 2 games.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the urgency level is a little heightened for them.
Yeah. And, I mean, in the presser, like, I think that people kind of took CJ saying that, oh, if you were saying the Hawks were going back to MSG 2-2, like, as a necessarily bad thing, but that's also just kind of CJ's personality. Like, I picked up on that just from being in the presses with him. Um, he's very dry. You know what I mean? Like, he's very matter of fact. This is a
Mm.
job to him. You could really tell that. And so I think that I don't think he meant that like, hey, the urgency isn't there for us, but they did, but that's what's happened, right? Like, and
Mhm.
that's also been a consistent thing throughout the series, right? Like all the 50-50 balls went New York's way from, I would say game 3 on, like really in game 3 too. There were a lot of big moments where I felt like New York was able to win those. And I don't necessarily, I don't like saying like, oh, the coach has to, light a fire under these guys. I don't really think that's like as relevant for me, but I do think that there's a perceived like, my coach used to tell me, why do you play better when I'm mad at you? Right.
Yeah.
And it's
Mhm.
just like I think that there's like because New York knows intrinsically that they're supposed to have this advantage over Atlanta, and they
Yeah.
didn't. They got down. It's kind of like
Mhm.
they assumed the underdog mentality that Atlanta should have had the entire time. Like, I don't know if Atlanta was ever as hungry. Um, which is interesting. I think I saw like a Knicks account post like the Hawks bench, like the view from the Hawks bench, and again, lots of dialogue there about whether they were fired up enough or things of that nature. I also thought that there was a lot of moments where they were kind of just disorganized. I'm gonna start with some of the film, but see if I can show this transition possession. So after the offensive possession, also, so right here, you're gonna have Brunson working against CJ McCollum. Let's get into a late clock scenario. Mikhail fakes the screen. They kick it to Josh Hart. Jalen cuts off the drive. He stands up Josh again. And then here comes the semi-transition opportunity. And like I just don't like how long Jalen held the ball here. With
Mhm.
his handle issues, like CJ, you've got to get the CJ there. Probably a little bit of a push, but this is like one of many instances where I feel like the Hawks just left a lot of meat on the table, and the more situations you have like this, especially because like they have to get the low hanging fruit. If they don't, the offense just isn't good enough. Um, what did you think about putting Brunson on Dyson? Because I think that there's an argument to be had that Dyson isn't aggressive enough offensively to always like to really punish that. He did it a couple times, but like that's just not his game.
Yeah. Um, I think it was. I think it's better than what they had last time when they went like cat on Dyson. Um, when Dyson started the game 5. He started the game like off like a really hot start. I was like a little bit worried.
Yeah,
But like it
yeah.
didn't like carry on to anything. It's overall better, and I think Atlanta needs to change what they're doing offensively as well. I think they need to put Brunson in the action way more than they're actually doing right now. Way more. Like just do it more than Cat at this point, because once you're bringing like Cat in, Cat is
Hmm.
just gonna bring two. He's gonna bring two. So like CJ is gonna bring two to Alexander Walker, and then they're gonna have to like play out of that with like Daniels just being like rotated off.
Yeah, and I like that you point out that because putting two on the ball against this team that struggled to make those passes in the short roll, that missed multiple opportunities, hitting some guys on the baseline. Like here, I mean, this is Atlanta's really first set play, and they're just clearing out the side for Dyson. All right, um, like a horns out screen to get Dyson on this side, and then you're just gonna have CJ cut through, and they're gonna isolate. But like is that as sustainable or as effective over possessions if it's if it's not CJ in the ball screen action or even like using Jalen? No. So I think like New York is fine with that.
Mm.
Then again, like, and they kind of started involving Brunson,
Yeah.
but got away from it again a little bit. Like, see, Jalen was supposed to, even here, like, I think Jalen wasn't really paying attention to what they were supposed to run. You see how
Hmm.
Dyson points over to the other side of the court. They're running that away curl action. They like to run. Dyson points over
Yeah.
there.
Mm.
Jalen just doesn't do it. The away curl happens regardless. And it just turns into like a handoff where,
I mean that's still good though. I still like that for them.
yeah, it's still
Honestly, even
it's still good. It's just I think it's more so like I just saw too many moments where guys were doing different things. Like
Mhm.
side out of balance, guys are unorganized. Onyeka has his hands out. And this ends up being a good shot. I think this is also like I posted that graphic that also the NBA. Like a lot of the paint touches for Atlanta aren't always quality, if that makes sense. Like I mean, every driving kick it has some intrinsic value. Like this is this is good, but it's not the same as like I would say like New York's paint touches, where a lot of those drives are turning directly into shot attempts at the rim, not drives into passes for shot attempts. And because of the way they've been shooting, and because of the way that, like, I love Dyson, but because he isn't always aggressive and isn't always looking to shoot, like
Mhm.
there's another one where he caught it under the rim. I think the broadcasters were saying, "Oh, he should have shot it." It's also just not
Yeah,
as
yeah.
he probably could have got that one up, but it's also likely that he may have not just with the size on New York's back line. But
I honestly didn't think he had a shot there, but they were
I didn't think
showing
so
it.
either. I was like, no, I don't think he could have shot that. And there was another one too where like OG was lurking. They were like, "Oh, you should have shot that." It's like, yeah, no, OG would have pinned it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge fan of possessions like these either. Like I don't really think they necessarily need to force
No, no, this
this
is.
either.
I don't understand why they did. I remember that play.
Yeah, man. Like the way they came out the gates, I was like, yeah, this is gonna be a long night. It's definitely gonna be a long night. I didn't love what I was seeing. Um
Mhm.
dang, I want to get to this one other. Oh, I saw like Mike Brown call a play. I wanted to ask you if this was it was
Uh,
like around the 540 mark after the free throws. You'll see Mike Brown. You see how he's doing this? Let's see. I'm assuming this is like an elbow. He's called for elbow. You see at the corner. He's
mhm. Mhm.
so this is their elbow series right here
Let me see.
because this is how the play begins.
Mhm. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So we know like, and this is what you're saying too. Like Atlanta's not comfortable with putting the keel on OG.
Yeah.
Honestly, probably isn't really anyone who can check OG on this team, especially if they're gonna put Kaminga on Cat. Like I just think like Jalen's been blown through too much by OG, like with how high his hips are. They actually guard that initial action pretty well,
Yep.
but just Brunson catching with that slight advantage causes Kaminga to shift over, and then now it's that massive window for Cat, and he knocks it down. And then I want to show this particular like kind of what I mean. And I'm gonna have to do a whole compilation on the film room Twitter because I mean this is like this is their biggest Achilles heel as an offense, in my opinion, is not being able to really effectively leverage the pick and roll game as a passer. Like I think
Yep.
my guy Fizzov was like, hey, the Knicks realized the Kaminga and CJ can't pass. And
Yeah.
it's kind of been over for the offense. This is actually going to be Dyson, who is, and again, here they're evolving Jalen. Here comes a slight hedge.
Mhm.
They're going to get back to the rescreen, kind of like with a get action. Dyson's going to open up after they put two on the ball. And I mean,
This is bad.
this just can't
Yeah.
happen. It like, and you see Dyson's face. Like, I wish I could zoom in. If you see Dyson's face, he knows he messed up.
Mhm.
But that this has been a consistent thing. The baseline cuts, they're not hitting them. The short rolls are not hitting them. They're constantly resetting to Dyson or another big who's not going to shoot it above the key. This is how you turn an advantage into a massive negative. Like from
I don't know
a
what. my God, I don't know what Bradley's doing up there. Like
Yeah,
as soon as like Daniels gets the ball there, like sprint back down to the dunker and Kaminga lift off. Like
yeah, yeah.
that just makes me upset watching.
Like there's nothing to engage the weak side help. There's nothing to open up any sort of lane. Like Kaminga's doing, Kaminga's ready to go and get this. But to your point too, like Tony Bradley's just standing there, and this is the problem with playing someone who doesn't know the system, because it's not like the
Hmm.
Hawks don't do lifts and sinks and 45 cuts. Muhammad Gay would have, even if this is Mo Gay and he was still standing here, he would have flowed into a handoff. You would, like there would have been, yeah, that was bad. That was really bad. And I think I have just another one of my notes. I got hungry around like the third quarter, and I was like, I'm gonna start cooking. So I didn't watch the rest of the game because I was like, I'm gonna have to rewatch it anyways, and I was hungry. But this particular play is just the same thing. It's like, and I honestly think this is a conscious thing. So they're gonna throw like kind of like a thumbs out alignment. Here comes the pistol cut from Jalen off of Onyeka, and then now Onyeka's gonna get to a DHO with CJ. Onyeka slips this, and there's just no. You got to throw this over the top. You got to wrap this around, and it turns into a catch and shoot for Gabe Vincent.
Yeah,
When
that that's fine.
and this
He should
isn't,
just do it.
yeah, like this has to be an auto read. Like it's an empty corner. There's no one. At the very least, Cat's gonna foul him. You know, it should be an auto read. You've got Brunson as a low man. Like there's you couldn't have as broken as like this is not like really scripted. Like this is a pretty broken play. The spacing is bad. Like you got CJ stacked on top with Dyson, but even so, like this, when as soon as you see this turn to an empty corner DHO, and that's again like Dyson's ability to understand floor balance, and this is what people don't understand. He may not be able to shoot, but you see how he turns this into an empty corner DHO because he moves and relocates the other
Hmm.
dunker.
Hmm.
And there's a part of me that's just like, I think CJ sees it here. I would imagine so,
Yep.
and it has to be a pass here. It has to. And it's just far too many of these turn into that. And this is why the driving kickbang has been so bad, because they're doing what New York wants, and they're allowing New York to funnel the shots to the right guys for them. And oh yeah, and this sorry, I do have one more from the third quarter. I guess I'm gonna start cooking a little bit after the third quarter. Same thing. Um, didn't love that shot here. Jalen's going to be a little slow on the delivery. He's going to get down against the hedge. And he hesitates here. Right. And I think like it's just so I have to look at the exact percentages again. But Jalen did not see a lot of hedges or doubles or blitzes during the regular season from when I was tracking.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of that has kind of thrown him out of the whack as well.
Do you think
Because
it's because wait, sorry. Do you
mm,
think it's because they don't really like attack mismatches as much with him?
if when they usually attack mismatches, if like he'll catch at the, let's say they ran a pick and roll like CJ and Jalen, and then they switch
Hmm.
it, then that's how they don't really attack mismatches with him as a handler.
Yeah.
Typically, it's typically like he'll catch at the free throw line extended, the pinch. Um, they'll get him on the roll, but he doesn't really attack advantages from the top of the key for the most part, unless it's like that stack action. But even then, like teams didn't really hedge or blitz him there. They were usually
Yep.
switching or dropping, and I just think like if this spin again, like OG's coming back in the play, like ball has to
That
be
could have
out now.
that could have easily been a turnover as well. I think
Yeah.
he turned it over at least one time like that too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it also would help, it would help if Onyeka lifted there. He didn't really do that either. But this is like these three possessions are just why I think the offense has a lot of room to grow. And it's not that the system is bad or they're not. It's just the guys that they're asking to make these decisions aren't polished there yet. And that's what makes it hard to learn on the fly in the playoffs. But there are very clear areas of improvement for a lot of these guys. Like at this point, Onyeka needs to be lifting up the wing. and Dyson floats into the right area, and Jalen sees him. It's just the delay closes that window a lot faster than it should have been.
Hmm.
I also thought OG. I just think there was a time in my life where like I was like I wasn't super high on OG. Like, I didn't think he was like fantastic. I really changed my mind. I wanted to show this. There was an, I think earlier in this, like even something like this is just so big. So they're trying to clear it to get Cat a post touch,
Yep.
and as soon as that help comes, like OG dives, steals
Hmm.
CJ under the basket. Ball gets skipped to McHale. Now the Hawks defense is like in all sorts of flux. They're having to go and recover, and then again like another broken possession, and it finds OG in the corner, and it's just I'm not like OG just kind of does everything you would ever want from a wing, and I'm kind of ashamed to say that I'm just now kind of realizing that. Um, but he's been fantastic, and I think like he's as indispensable as Brunson or Cat, arguably, if
Yeah.
not more. In this series, I think like I'd probably say he's been the second, if not the best player. I'd probably say Cat, but he's been fantastic.
Yeah, he's been awesome. I think an area that he like I mentioned this yesterday. It's the rebounding. Like his rebounding has been like
Bro, yeah.
torturing the Hawks. Yeah,
It's all
like
yeah,
he had 7 in the first quarter.
yeah. And it's all the physicality too. Like that's the thing. And I don't know. I don't really know how you fix that. Just like some guys are just more physical. Um, but I think like this, even if you just look at the box score, the way these shot distributions worked out, like this is in New York's favor. Like you've got CJ only took 10 shots. Kaminga came in and got 7 shots up in the first quarter. A lot of them very ill advised. Um, Nikhil 11 shots, Onyeka 10 shots, Jalen 15 shots, Dyson 11, and very low free throw pressure. Like I mean, Knicks doubled up for the series. I want to say the 4 factor breakdown is completely doubled up in New York's favor. And on the glass, like you mentioned, OG's been fantastic. They got Brunson on the run a lot more. I thought he was very aggressive in transition. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, what OG had 10 boards, Cat 14. Um, yeah, man, it'll be really interesting seeing what happens in game one. How did you? How does the Brunson off ball? Um, I guess like because it's very interesting how like narratives will follow like a particular game, right? Like first 3 games, you can't build around small guards. You can't build around small guards. But I think what kind of differentiates Brunson, of course, is that he's a willing screener. He's an able screener, and that when you get him off the ball, like he's
hmm,
still very dangerous.
yeah.
Um, has how has his like transition? I guess because like those first 3 games were dreadful, to be honest. Like relative to his baseline, his standard. Like, how do you feel like this will bode for going forward in this series? We talk a lot about how like it could maybe run him down too if this series goes long, considering the caliber of defenders he has to see. Like how big has that transition really been from your perspective? And would you say like this is one of the more consistent off ball stretches he's played this season? Too like if we start like with game 3, game 5 through game 5, or were there stretches throughout the season where he was also very much so embracing being off ball?
I think there were definitely stretches during the season, especially early in the season, where he was like off ball a little bit more, and they relied on like other guys to run the offense. Like Mikal Bridges doesn't get the same amount of touches that he got earlier on.
Mm.
Am I okay with that? I think I am. I'm fine with that. But yeah, he's been off ball before. Um, the other thing with him is when you say like off ball stuff, like he's just he's like a pretty tricky player to like
Mm.
find around screens and stuff. He's almost I don't want to say he's like Steph Curry like, but he has like the same there's like the same twitch, you know what I mean? Like he'll juke you into something, then he'll go back into it. You know what I mean? And then yeah, and this his spot up game is really good. So I think playing off that was important for them. Also the fact that Atlanta did make the defensive change with Daniels on Cat, and then having Nikhil. I think Nikhil could guard him, but it's not Daniels. Daniels like hounds him. I think like a lot better than
Yeah,
Nikhil did.
yeah. I think Nikhil could do it for stretches, but it's a different style. To your point,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
think
a
Nikhil. I think Nikhil just relies a little bit more on his length. Like
mhm.
he pulls back a little bit more.
Like the connectivity is different. Like
Mm.
that one shot where Brunson nashed around the basket, got a butt screen from Cat and scored. I think Dyson stays
Yeah,
better connected there than Nikhil,
yeah.
and I think that's like the big differentiator between their defense. Um, there's a there's a part of me that feels like I look at the minutes played from this game. And a lot of this is going to be swayed by the fact they got blown out. Do you think that and I'd imagine this will happen in like a game six, it's a do or die for the Hawks. Like
Hmm.
and the Knicks have been able to survive the starters' minutes so far throughout this series. But if Atlanta goes 40 minutes, 35 minutes of the starters together, before I get ahead of myself, what did you think about that switch putting Dyson on Cat? Like, do you think that's something that they might go back to in game six? I think with the way that Brunson turned up, it may be something they turn back into a wrinkle. They won't open the game with it. But I'm
Yeah,
just curious how you feel about that decision.
I don't think they opened the game with it either. What makes it tough to me is that they're doing that, but then you're guarding OG, right? So you're still allowed to run some of the actions that New York wants to, right? Like the pinch post stuff, you're able to do that with Cat as the focal point and getting the ball. But yeah, they're not. I don't know. They're not playing off of anyone to like actually stop the actions that they don't want to run. So to me, it'll be difficult to see that again for them. I think it's a disadvantage more so because you're losing Dyson
Mm-hmm.
and they're still running the same actions. Like I don't understand the point of doing it.
Because that was what I was wondering too. Like, typically when a team puts a wing on Cat, they go away from the pick and roll, right?
They go
You
away from everything. They go away from the pinch post. They go away from delay. Like you want them to like you want them to change the entire scheme around it.
hmm,
Like the Thunder do that. The Thunder make it so that the Knicks don't run anything through Cat.
hmm. And do you think that's the bigger key? It's not the pressure on Cat per se as the passer, or the trigger man. It's the shading over from a heart insert of
Yeah.
someone else that causes
Hmm.
that. So that's where I think Atlanta will have to ask: is it worth? Because you can't take CJ out of the starting lineup.
No.
You can't take Dyson out unless you go Dyson, and this is the whole thing. You can't do Dyson, Kaminga, Jalen. It's garbage
No.
on offense.
I wouldn't take Dyson out and start him.
Yeah,
So,
so you have to have Dyson out there. You can't really ask Jalen to roam off Josh Hart. He's just not that type of defender, and you kind of need his size at least against OG. And this is the type of conversation that makes it so hard. This is why it's not as like simple. It's just hey guard Dyson, guard Cat with Dyson. So
yeah.
we'll see. I agree with you. I think it'll be a wrinkle. It won't be something they directly go to. I
I think
do,
it was just much better with Okongwu on Cat and just asking Okongwu to like try your best pretty much and have like other
yeah,
players rotate out if they
yeah.
needed it.
And that's the thing. Like you can put a Kongu on Cat if you're gonna give him some help, but they're not giving him help. So like that's what I would say. Like if I was making a recommendation to Quin, I'd say leave a Kongu on Cat. If Josh Hart's one pass away, show a ton of help on his drives. Try and make that pass. Try and ask Cat to be a passer. Although I think he's kind of developed a lot more confidence throughout this series as a passer as well. But a lot of
Hmm.
that's still orchestrated. Like I think his best passes have come out of orchestrated actions. So you need to make him be a more improvisational passer. Off the dribble and not sitting at the top of the key and pinch or corner action, whatever it may be.
Hmm.
Um, how are you feeling about the? We talked about how desperation has been a big part of this series. Atlanta's now the more desperate team. They're at home. Knicks fans love to say MSG South. As someone who's in the building, there were definitely a lot more Knicks fans in Game 4 than there were Game 3. In Game 4, Knicks fans tried to start chants, I want to say at least 15 times. And they did become successful, but later in the fourth, after the game was out of hand, the Hawks crowd would respond. Shout out to the Hawks fans who came down to that arena.
Mhm.
But all that being said, if New York takes momentum, yes, it becomes a very pro Knicks crowd. And I think that they've got to be that is going to be a factor. I think Atlanta being at home is a factor as well. I think the fact that they're down, they're desperate, they're going to claw and fight. Um, do you think New York's process offensively looks very similar in Game 6? You know, getting Brunson off the ball as much as possible, playing through Cat. Do you think that there's
Yeah,
anything the Hawks can do feasibly, based off what we just said? Do you think there's anything they can do to disrupt that? Because I'm not really feeling like there's much they can do to disrupt what's made New York really successful, outside of trying to make Cat less of a scorer and more of a playmaker. But outside of that, I feel like the offensive process is going to look very similar.
yeah, I expect it to be the same. I think after I want to say after game three,
Hmm.
Mike Brown was basically like, Cat just needs the ball at this point. Like, just throw it to him in the pinch post, and he could run stuff off him, or he could like take it himself, right? So I think that adjustment was what was needed. We just needed more Cat in general. So I'm pretty comfortable with what we might see for game six. So I don't expect it to change.
And then, uh, would you play Tony Bradley?
No, is Mo Gay good? Like, he's not injured or anything?
No, he is. It's I just think the problem is like just the weight. He just can't withstand bumps. But
Uh,
Tony
I'd
Bradley
still
is,
play. I'd still play Gay still,
yeah.
just because of the extra switchability. I feel like he switched on a few times, did decent, and I don't know. I know that's not really like a great excuse to play him, but
Hmm.
it's better than what Tony Bradley has done.
Fairs, fairs. I want to check the splits with Tony Bradley on the floor real quick in the playoffs. But yeah, I'm there with you. Um, yeah, they've lost his minutes by 5, which honestly, in 65 offensive possessions, that's actually not that bad, honestly. But you can't. But to what we started it off with, you can't do that and also put a Dyson and Kaminga out there. It's just asking for, and like that was a second quarter lineup. It wasn't like it
Hmm.
was like the third. So, and I don't want to over index too much on the lineups themselves, because like I mean that same lineup with Kispert in, who's been like largely a non-factor scoring wise, has been better than with Jalen out there. But nonetheless, I think you probably shouldn't probably go with Tony Bradley. Check Cat with Onyeka.
I play Anyaka like 43 minutes, like
Yeah,
probably like the max
yeah.
because
He's got to you got to extend him. And the only thing with Onyeka is just like his use his minutes to like effectiveness curve is like very drastic. Like it just plunges after like 36 minutes.
really
Like,
like
and
damn.
it's not that he's like his conditioning is bad, but it's just like they use him in everything. You know, he's involved in everything, and they ask him to guard at the level a lot. So maybe you've got to figure out where you can be more conservative in his defensive schemes. Maybe you try and get him more minutes. Like when Brunson's out, you leave him out there so he can kind of coast a little bit and not have to play up at the level. But I would. That's like the big reason why Jock Lando was a savior, because like Onyeka playing 32 minutes versus Onyeka playing 38 is a completely different player, and that will you'll see if they ask him to play that much.
Mhm.
But he's already overtasked defensively, and you ask him to sit out there for that long. Um, so I agree though. He's got to play. I would even consider um like putting the keel on Hart maybe, and then CJ, just because Nikhil's better at like showing and recovering and digging. Maybe if you get Nikhil on Hart, you got Dyson on Brunson, you got Onyeka on Cat, and then you ask Jalen to be a man and guard OG and Unobi, and then you put CJ on McHale, and you see if you can get just a little bit more disruption, that because you're allowing Nikhil to roam a little bit
Mhm.
more. I would want to see that. I can't remember. I had to look at the matchup minutes, but that would be my biggest wrinkle I'd suggest. Um, if they cannot force turnovers, this would be a very quick and painless loss. Quick and painless win for the Knicks and a very painful one for Atlanta because so much of their offense is built off that.
Mm.
Yeah, man. We'll see. I'm interested. We'll see if we're back here for Game 7. I don't feel particularly confident about that. I just think not to say that the New York has solved them, but they've kind of just done what we talked about. They've realized their advantages. They've leaned more into it. They've taken away the biggest one. Atlanta has. I think that curveball could potentially do something, but we'll see. I appreciate you, Shax.
Thank you for having me on,
Of
yo.
course. And then, like always, his info is in the description. Support him, support me. Appreciate you all for listening. And we'll see you after Game 6.